Most developers have a very simple mental model for Claude Code. If it is running in my terminal, on my machine, inside my repo, then this is basically local private mine. But that assumption just got a lot more complicated. Anthropic's Compliance API now gives enterprise customers a way to retrieve retained session transcripts from local Claude Code and cowork sessions when those sessions are run under a Claude Enterprise account. That means the important line is no longer, is this happening on my laptop? The important line is, whose AI account am I signed into? And if you're using an enterprise managed AI account at work, your local terminal session may be much more auditable than you think. So in this video, we are going to unpack what changed, what this does and does not mean, why companies want this, why developers are going to have very mixed feelings about it, and the exact mistake you should avoid if you use AI coding tools at work, and make sure you watch to the end, because this is not just a Claude story. This is the start of a much bigger shift where AI coding stops feeling like a personal assistant and starts becoming part of corporate infrastructure. Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this. Now, back to the video. The first thing to understand is that this is not Anthropic secretly spying on random developers. That is not the claim here. The Compliance API is an enterprise governance feature. Security, legal, and compliance teams use this kind of tool because companies need records of what happened inside official systems. If an employee asks an AI assistant to analyze customer data, generate code, summarize confidential strategy, or interact with a sensitive repository, the company may need to audit that later. In heavily regulated environments, that is not optional. Banks need records, healthcare companies need records, government contractors need records. Large enterprises need to know what tools their employees are using and what data is flowing through those tools. So from the company's point of view, this makes sense. If Claude is approved for work, then Claude activity has to be governable like Slack, email, GitHub, Google Workspace, Microsoft 365, and everything else. But from the developer's point of view, it still feels like a very sharp change because Claude Code does not feel like a corporate admin system. It feels like a terminal tool. You are in your editor, you're in your repo, you're asking it messy questions, you're pasting errors, you're letting it read files. You're thinking out loud, and sometimes you're doing the kind of exploration developers do before they are proud of the final version. That is why this matters emotionally. Most workplace tools are obviously workplace tools. If you send a message in Slack, you know that message belongs to the company workspace. If you push to the company GitHub, you know the organization can inspect it. If you write in a company Google Doc, you know admins may have access, but a local AI coding session sits in a strange middle ground. It has the intimacy of a personal workflow, but the governance needs of enterprise software. And that gap is where misunderstandings happen. The key detail is that Anthropic's documentation says the content endpoints can serve local session transcripts from Cowork and Claude Code sessions that run on users' machines while they are signed in with a Claude Enterprise account. That sentence changes the mental model. Local does not necessarily mean invisible, terminal does not necessarily mean private, and AI pair programmer does not necessarily mean only I will ever see the conversation. Now, should companies have this kind of visibility? That depends on how you frame the question. If you frame it as employee surveillance, it sounds creepy. If you frame it as data loss prevention and auditability, it sounds responsible. And honestly, both reactions are understandable. Imagine a developer accidentally pastes a production secret into an AI session. The security team needs a way to investigate what happened. Imagine someone uses AI to generate code that mishandles customer data. The compliance team may need records. Imagine a company wants to prove that official AI tools are not being abused. They need visibility. But also imagine being a developer who uses Claude Code as a thinking partner. You ask half-formed questions, you test bad ideas, you paste embarrassing stack traces, you ask it to explain code you feel like you should already understand. You may not want all of that treated like a permanent workplace artifact. That tension is going to define enterprise AI coding. Companies want control, developers want flow, security teams want audit logs, engineers want a tool that feels safe enough to think with. And these goals are not automatically aligned. The practical takeaway is simple. If you are using an AI coding tool through your employer, assume it is a workplace system. Do not treat it like a private notebook. Do not paste personal secrets. Do not use it for side projects unless your company policy allows that. Do not assume that because the interface is a terminal, the content is invisible to enterprise governance. And if you're a team lead, do not wait for confusion. Tell developers clearly what is logged, who can access it, how long it is retained, and what the tool is approved for. Because the worst version of this future is not enterprise auditability. The worst version is enterprise auditability that developers do not understand until after the fact. This also points to a bigger future for AI coding. The first wave of AI coding tools felt personal. A chatbot in your editor, a coding assistant in your terminal, a model that helps you move faster. The next wave is organizational. Admins want metrics, security teams want controls, legal teams want records, finance teams want token spend, platform teams want approved model access, and managers want to know who is using which agent and whether it is actually helping. That means the AI coding tool is becoming less like a toy you install and more like an enterprise platform you operate. The same thing happened to messaging. The same thing happened to cloud storage. The same thing happened to source control. At first, tools are adopted because individuals love them. Then the organization notices. Then the organization standardizes, audits, restricts, measures, and integrates them. AI coding is entering that phase now. There's also a very practical culture problem here. If companies roll this out badly, developers will quietly route around the approved tool. They will use personal accounts. They will paste smaller chunks into random web chats. They will avoid asking the AI the messy questions where it is most useful, and that is worse for everyone. The company loses visibility, the developer loses a properly supported tool, security gets weaker instead of stronger. So the best enterprise policy is not just we can audit this. The best policy is clear, boring, and explicit. Tell people what counts as company data. Tell them whether local sessions are retained. Tell them whether transcripts include prompts, outputs, files, and tool activity. Tell them who can request those records. Tell them whether managers can browse them casually or whether access is limited to compliance and security investigations. Tell them what happens if secrets are pasted accidentally. And tell them what tool to use for personal learning, side projects, or non-company code. Developers can handle governance. What they hate is surprise governance. The trust problem is not solved by hiding the audit log. It is solved by making the rules visible enough that people can work confidently. That is the difference between an enterprise AI platform and a productivity trap. There's one more developer habit that needs to change. People need to separate accounts and context much more carefully than they used to. If you are working on company code, use the approved company tool. If you are working on your own project, use your own account. If you're experimenting with something sensitive, understand the policy before you paste it. That sounds obvious, but AI coding tools blur boundaries. You can be in the same terminal, the same editor, and the same machine, but the account identity changes the entire privacy and governance model. That is a new kind of foot gun. In the past, developers mostly thought about which Git remote they were pushing to. Now they also need to think about which AI organization they are authenticated into. The account is part of the environment. The policy is part of the environment. The retention system is part of the environment. And if teams do not teach that clearly, people will make mistakes. So my advice is not to avoid enterprise AI tools. My advice is to treat them like enterprise tools, use them seriously, use them for approved work, take advantage of the fact that the company is willing to support them. But do not confuse runs on my machine with belongs only to me. That distinction is going to matter more every year. So the next time someone says it runs locally, so it is private, be careful. The better question is, what account is connected? What policy governs it? What data is retained? And who has the keys? That is the new reality. Claude Code may still be one of the most powerful AI coding tools you can use, but at work, it is not just your assistant. It may also be part of your company's compliance system. And that is the story. Not panic, not conspiracy, just the moment AI coding grew up and walked straight into the audit log.